astrology isn't a religion, but it does speak to our spiritual life and self, and also speaks to our entirety. And I think queer folks need places and spaces, especially historically, where we can go and be accepted and understood and reflected as we are,
Yeah.
and not be, maligned for being who we are.
Baby, the stars have aligned for this moment. Chani Nicholas is a queer astrologer, well known for her writing and especially for her knack of weaving in queer identity, progressive ideals, as well as activism into her horoscopes and work. In 2020, she released her own iPhone astrology app, Chani, as well as her first book, You Were Born for This, Astrology for Radical Acceptance, which was a New York Times bestseller. Please welcome the diva, Chani Nicholas. Chani, how are you? Welcome to Logo Live.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like we have matching backgrounds, but yours is pink and mine is green.
Yeah. I mean, those are my two favorite colors, green and pink. And also this ring. So I start off all my interviews asking my guests, what is she giving? So what are you giving? I love this tank. I love the ring.
I'm giving like a little pearl, a little gold chain, and a little protection.
Yeah, it's like sweet, but don't fuck with me, which I love.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm so happy to have you. I just love what you do. You are such a bright light in our community and just like in this world. So I'm just so happy that you got to take some time to spend with us today. But I do want to say there will be people that don't know your amazing work, and I would just love just like a brief description for those like newbies, it's fine, better late than never, of your approach to astrology.
My approach to astrology is gay. My approach to astrology is informed by, all of the incredible feminists, Black feminists, POC feminists, Indigenous feminists that I kind of like cut my teeth on as a younger person. And I believe that if our spiritual practices and praxis isn't also rooted in very real world awareness, that it actually can do more harm than good. So that's the place I come from. Like, I want to talk about what it is we're experiencing and how that impacts us, and that we can't ever extricate how the world, sees us and where it stations us from our own development and healing and growth.
How did the stars lead you to this profession of being like a professional astrologer?
Well, like childhood trauma,
Yeah.
that old chestnut.
Yeah.
I got my first astrology reading when I was 12. And it was through my father's third wife's mother, who was also a Reiki master, and her husband was a tarot card reader, and all of her friends were psychics and astrologers and like past life regressionists. That reading just like lit me up. And I was like, I am in so much pain, and this woman seems to know something about healing. Cool. And I just like glommed onto it. It also really helped me to distinguish myself from my newfound family and to understand each person in that. I think when you're a kid who's trying to always figure out like, where do I fit in different family systems, and especially around the age of 12, it's astrologically a really important age, but it's also, that time where we need to know that there's magic afoot and that there's power, because all the stuff is starting to awaken in us. Like many people, I was like, I am a witch.
Yes, I love that. I love the like Stevie Nicks of it all.
Yeah.
I feel like so many queer people love and appreciate astrology. Why do you think it is that the queer family loves astrology so much?
Because the church really like sucks and was like, really messed everybody up. And organized religion has been really hard on gay folks and on gender nonconforming folks and on non-binary folks and on trans folks and on women. Like, there's just not a lot of room to be a full human. I mean, most of us are not cis straight dudes. And so if that's your image of God, and if that's your image of what's divine, and if that's the only thing that you pray to, it's like, where am I in this? You can also, learn to read your own chart and have some kind of agency over it. You know, like there's a lot of stuff depending on the religion, but a lot of times we have to go through someone else to get to some greater divinity. And I think astrology is like, here you go. Like, here's a new
Yeah.
moon, work with it. Or here's this kind of like Jupiter transit. You get to do this and this. You get to build a relationship with this thing that's happening or this cycle that you're in. And I think that's really empowering, for lack of a better word.
Growing up in organized religion, I always it always felt like there were roadblocks, whereas with astrology, it always feels like there are roads to go down.
Queerness has always been, it's always on the outskirts, right? So it also speaks to that kind of like DIY-ness of it. It's like,
Yeah.
it has these ancient roots and this deep tradition, but we can make it what we need it to be, and it can keep growing with us. It's not stuck necessarily in antiquity.
What would you say to an astro skeptic? Or I'm sure you've been at a party once and someone's like, "Oh, I don't get that stuff." You know, like what would what would be
I
your?
don't like what you do with your life. You must be an idiot. Yeah, I'm just like, cool. I don't care. Like, live your life. Do you? I don't know. I don't need you to approve of what I do. I certainly don't need to approve of what you do. So you're not asking me for permission. I am not asking you for permission. But I do wish people understood the depth and breadth of the history of astrology and how deeply embedded it is in science and astronomy and religion. And, you know, it's a really funny, like I tell this story a lot, but I was at a Seder, you know, once, and my cousin's grandfather, so not related to me, but he was like in his 80s. So he was like very, you know, other worlds than us, but he just went in on me about like how I must, and he's like known my grandparent, like he knew me since I was, you know, before I was born.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was foreign to him, but he went in on me about how I must be like basically a cheat and a liar, and you know, that everything I did was ridiculous in the middle of a Seder. Okay. So we're telling this story that isn't necessarily true, and we're doing this ritual that is like, you know, but like, what are we doing here? We're telling stories and we're creating ritual and we're making meaning out of something because there is truth to it, even if the thing it's, you know, so I was just like, okay.
Well, you just came out with your own app, your astrology app called Chani, which is so sickening that it's your name as well. That is some boss bitch shit right there. So there's a lot of astrology apps out there, you know, but what sets Chani apart from the rest of the girls?
Well, we are created by astrologers. This is an app. Every single word that is in the app is from an astrologer who has been studying traditional astrology for years. Every astrologer's thoughts and words that are in the app got paid. Nothing was taken from anywhere. It was all created, and it was created with the kind of rigor and discipline that all of us came with. And I, you know, directed it. I wrote quite a bit of it. Collectively, we have like over, you know, a century of experience among us in terms of our study and our knowledge and also our dedication. So it's coming from that place. Yeah. We are self-funded. We will never sell the app, which means we will never sell your data. We're not beholden to VC money or VCs and their idea of what it is we should do with you and all of the information you've given us. We are completely dedicated to creating an app that gives you the blueprint of your life in the palm of your hand and helps you along your path in whatever way you want. We have meditations, there's weekly readings, there's all the horoscopes, there's all the descriptions of your chart, and every month we're adding, well, we're going to begin. It's been interesting launching an app.
Yeah, of course.
Creating a tech company or a piece of technology is a whole thing unto itself. So we really appreciate everyone being patient with us. My passion is teaching people how to be in relationship with their chart. And I think that gives us an agency that is really kind of thrilling.
Mercury is going into retrograde May 29th, I believe.
You're good, yeah. June 22nd, I know that.
Is there anything the dolls should be expecting from this one in particular that you know of?
Yeah, it's going to be messy.
I love it.
It's messy. And what's happening is it stations retrograde on the 29th, and it's in its home sign of Gemini. So it's kind of like an extra potent retrograde, which means all of the communication issues will be kind of like amped up because it's in a sign of communication. One of the things about Mercury's cycle is that right before it stations retrograde, or as it's stationing retrograde, it's a really bright evening star. It's gorgeous in the night sky. And then it goes invisible. It goes too close to the sun to see it. And then it makes a conjunction with the sun. And that is a moment where Mercury is getting infused with the light of the sun. And it's almost like it's getting like a blood transfusion. Like it's almost like it gets weak when it's too close to the sun, and then it gets what it needs from the sun. And that moment is supposed to be a moment of like clarity and understanding of what the Mercury retrograde cycle is about. And then it keeps separating from the sun, and eventually it pops up as a bright morning star as it's stationing direct. And so Mercury is known as like this liminal planet that can go from evening star to morning star and goes invisible. And so it goes to the upper realms and the lower realms, and it helps us traverse, it's like psychopomp. So it helps us traverse the waters from the realm of the living to the realm of the dead. And it's very, very mystical in that process, and helps us to retrieve something. At the moment where it goes conjunct with the sun, there's going to be a solar eclipse, which means it's a new moon. And the moon and the earth and the sun and then Mercury are all lined up in a way that casts a shadow. And so eclipse season always unearths some kind of shadowy material.
Yeah.
Mercury retrograde always gets us to look back and see what it is we forgot, we misunderstood. Yes, it's a pain in the ass, and yes, things get complicated. But I believe that if we really pay attention to it, we always get like the best piece of information that we need at that moment. And I don't know about you, but the more painful something is, the more I pay attention to it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm in my most focused, self when I'm going through something.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you're happy and you're blissful and like not like you're kind of just like floating through life.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're going through change or like, pressure, there's almost like this laser focus where you're like, why am I going? There's like a curiousness about it that you like really hone in on.
Yeah, I do feel that too. It also helps me be more kind of targeted or committed to my spiritual practice or therapy or the things that keep me. It really aligns, like gets like, oh, this is important and that is not important.
Yeah.
And I feel like that June 10th eclipse is like, it's such a wild, unusual setup for an eclipse. Mercury would also be in there, and it's Mercury's retrograde. So it just feels so deep, to be honest. It'll definitely give us what we want, but it's not a great time to like be trying to push something to happen. Eclipses, you want to kind of lay low.
Yeah.
And if the shadow comes, so you're like, you don't want to absorb that. You want to like let it go by. You can use it for detoxing. You can use it for understanding your own kind of shadowy material.
Yeah.
And really like being like, I shouldn't have said that.
You said that the eclipse happens June 10th, and that is like the beginning of Pride Month.
It is.
So is there anything that we should be expecting for Pride Month as queer people when it comes to the charts and the stars and things?
So, if we're looking at like Pride weekend, then it's Mercury station direct, and on the Saturday, Venus enters Leo. So, that will be fun and exuberant. And the main thing is that Jupiter will have already gone into Pisces. Jupiter goes into Pisces May 13th. Jupiter is the planet of expansion and growth and abundance and spirituality and being able to receive things, kind of like embrace things or say yes. And it has been in both Capricorn in 2020, which is where it has its fall. So it's said to be depressed there.
Yeah.
So the planet, you feel that?
I felt it.
So it was really bummed out in 2020.
Yeah.
Saturn ruled signs like Capricorn are restrictive. So the planet of plenty has been restricted both in Capricorn and to a lesser degree, but still in Aquarius where it is now. And then it's going to go into Pisces until July 28th, from May 13th to July 28th. And it is unrestricted.
We love that.
The planet of plenty and, you know, having a good time and many pleasures. It is Pisces, wants to go everywhere, be everywhere, but like merge with everything.
I hope that when people see this, they'll be so excited. I just know that they're like, unrestricted. Yes, that's what I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
Shot girl summer, all those things, you know.
Exactly.
From you, what do you want out of the rest of your year to look like?
Oh, listen, what a question. Okay, this is where I'm at right now. I was an astrologer. I had my own business. I like wrote stuff and all the things, did everything. I was an entrepreneur, did everything to that. Now I have a company and we have a lot of people working with us and we have this incredible team and I am learning to delegate.
Mm.
And it is life-changing. And not only does it help me feel freer, it also, you know, creates opportunities for folks that are working with me to grow their own capacity and to take on new responsibilities and to like develop their own skills in certain things. And it is like every day I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. So this year I am really focused on nurturing that, like nurturing the team, building the best app, keeping to build the best app. The Android version is like the biggest thing on our list for sure, as well as all the new features and the stuff we want to roll out. But I just feel like we've worked so hard to get here and I feel it now like grounding and I want to keep supporting that thing that's happening where it's like, when you launch so many things, you're just always in this kind of like fight or flight phase of like, okay, and the thing, and you launch it and it goes out and then, okay, what's next? And now we get to be more like, okay, let's get a really great working order with all of this. And then see from that groundedness and this consistency, what else comes through. So give my system a bit of a break. But then I say that, and there's also a lot of other stuff in the works. And I'm like, well, how's that going to work if that project goes through? So, you know, we'll see.
I just want to thank you so much for coming on Logo Live and imparting your beautiful wisdom on us.
I can't wait to meet in person.
Yes, 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 yes.